Yes, shaboom. We are now live.
Hey,
Yes.
I am
Success.
one. The three people layouts weirded me out. I look so skinny.
It's definitely different. But you should be used to the 3-person layout by now.
This is true, actually. You've done this other times.
Yes. Yes. For folks who are just joining us, hello. Thank you for joining us in today's live stream. We're going to be talking about comics and Kickstarter. I am joined by Angela and Ben. Yeah. So before we get right into the talk, I would like us to do just short introductions, just to be like telling the crowd who we are, our background with Kickstarter, and how many campaigns we've done. If you know the stat off the top of your head, how much you have, like the most that you have raised on Kickstarter in one campaign, but it's okay if you don't have that stat.
Should I go?
You can go first. Yeah.
Okay.
Go for it.
Tell us who you are, your background with Kickstarter, and how many campaigns you've done.
So I'm Angela Boyle. I make comics. Duh. So I run Awesome Possum, which is a natural science anthology. I've done 4 Kickstarters for that and 1 for my own tiny little book. For I think the biggest Awesome Possum was like $8,000.
Ooh.
Yeah. It was a lot of work, but it was very fun. They're always very fun.
Well, yeah, 8,000 is a lot for one campaign.
Yeah, and it's I always hope for more because I want to pay the artists more per page, and that's what all my Awesome Possum Kickstarter goals or stretch goals are for.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Ben, you want to go into your background with Kickstarter a little bit?
All right. Well, I have self-published 2 graphic novels in the Letters of the Devil series, lotd-comic.com. And for both of them, I ran Kickstarters. The first one, I did I think it was, why am I blanking all of a sudden? It was a $1,000 Kickstarter, and the second one was a $2,000 Kickstarter. So I keep my numbers fairly low, but both were successful. So far, my track record's 100%.
Yay.
Yep. And yeah, and that was interesting because it was only paying me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kelsey, Angela, and I are all actually participating in an anthology that I'm actually the one putting it together, which is interesting, along with another cartoonist, Rainer Kannenstein. But yeah, it's interesting because now I'm figuring out how the Kickstarter is going to work with other people. So it's part of why I was excited that we're doing this.
Yeah. Well, I might have some insight on that because of my background with Kickstarter. Are we cool if I go into that a little bit?
Yeah, go for it. It's your channel.
Yeah. So I've been making comics for 7 years now. And there's a lot of books under my belt because of Kickstarter, because Kickstarter helped get those into print. Not all of the Kickstarters that I've run have been for comics. There was one little short campaign that I did just for pins. There was one that I did with the most recent one that I did was with Never Ending, which is a team of people, and that one is the campaign that has raised the most money for so far. I almost don't want to count it because it's a team effort and it wasn't just me. All of the campaigns that I've done previously were all by me for my own work. So before Never Ending, the most that I had raised in one campaign was with the Validation Final Push Kickstarter. That one raised almost, if not up to 2,000. And then the Never Ending Kickstarter raised like over 17,000. But that one was a joint like team effort. It wasn't just me. It was everybody in the Never Ending team working together to make it happen.
Well, cool. So between us, we've got what? Have we hit a dozen Kickstarters? I've only got 2, but we're close to that.
5.
Okay, so you have 2, you have 5. Never Ending makes 11 for me. My roommate just went, geez.
So quick math, I can do math because I'm a cartoonist. That helps, right? That's what, 17? Wait, you did 5, 11. No, wait, it should be 18.
Yes. So between the 3 of us, we've done 18 campaigns.
Not bad.
Yeah,
It's not bad at all, no.
nice stuff. So
hmm
I'm wondering how, like, I don't know how the best way to go through this is. Should we go point by point? Should we just talk about what we know works and doesn't work?
I did not have a outline. I figured we would just have this be a natural, like, chat, a natural breezy chat, because that's just how I do things on my channel. Is I like to chat with people. I don't necessarily have outlines for things.
Right. Well, starting question: how do you guys figure out how much money to ask for the base tier of a Kickstarter?
For me, it depends on how long I want the campaign to last. I feel like I've mastered campaigns that last less than 4 weeks. Which, by the way, you can do that. You can have Kickstarter campaigns that only last for like a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. You don't have to do a month-long thing.
The 30 days is a good time range.
Yeah. That sounds really nice to me, though. What's the shortest? Did you do a week-long Kickstarter?
I did 1 week-long Kickstarter. I asked for $100 to make a set of pins for validation. By the end of the week, we raised over 800.
Nice.
Yeah. So, like, as if you want to talk about successful Kickstarter campaigns, there's how much you've raised percentage-wise over your initial goal. There's how much you've raised total. There's a couple different metrics that you can use to measure success on Kickstarter. So by all accounts, if you're looking at just asking goal versus what I got at the end, the validation button Kickstarter that I did for 1 week was the most successful because it went 800% over its asking price.
Right.
Yeah. But again, that's based on what metric you're using to measure success on Kickstarter. Because there are some people who are like, I want to raise the most dollars. And then there are other people who are like, I want to have more backers this time than in previous campaigns.
Right.
Yeah. For Never Ending, we were measuring our success on the number of backers that we had for the campaign. I mean, the dollar signs helped, but we really wanted to like get a big audience for that one.
Right. More people also means more future money, potentially.
Potentially. It all depends on how you engage with your backers, and we'll talk about that later on.
Yeah.
Because that's something I did want to talk about was how do you engage with how do you engage with the backers of your campaigns to make them like lifelong supporters instead of just backing you once and then disappearing.
Right.
Yeah.
We can
Angela,
tackle that now.
We could.
We could.
I did want to ask though, Angela, what do you usually go for with a Kickstarter? You looking for dollars? You looking for?
For Awesome Possum, I'm really looking for dollars because the more dollars we get, the more I can pay the artists.
Right.
So, yeah, it's really just dollars so that I can pay people more. Because I think I start at $10 a page, which is pretty low. I would love to pay like $50 a page would be amazing for me. That's my goal if I keep doing it. I'm not sure I'm going to do another one. I probably will. People ask me about when's volume 5, so I might work on that next year. I'm not sure. I'm also considering getting a grant because it is educational.
Right.
So that I can pay the artists more just flat out. And then as the Kickstarter does better, pay them more through that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was one thing I was paranoid about running an anthology for the first time because I was looking over the numbers and I'm like, I can't ask them to work for exposure. That's wrong. I know this. but upfront money's tough. Like, are people willing to wait and then maybe only get like $10 a
In
page?
Awesome Possum's case, yes.
Yeah.
Nobody got paid until the Kickstarter money came to me.
What's a little sad is when I mentioned to people in the anthology that, you know, there would be pay at the end of this. I think a few people were surprised. I'm like, that's not how it should be. Of course there should be pay.
Well, I think for ours, I think part of the reason is we're a bunch of friends.
Yeah, but
we all know each other, so it's less, you have to pay me. So it's just an added benefit to get to work with everybody and get paid.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that helps when you're starting a project, but yeah, if you're looking for people to stick with you, it helps to pay them.
Yes.
So when you guys are calculating how much you're going to ask for on a Kickstarter, so one of the big questions, how much of a buffer do you leave? Because that's one of the secrets that I'm not sure everyone realizes. If you're doing a smart Kickstarter, there's always buffer money.
Yeah, it really depends on the project for me anyway, because I've done campaigns not just for comics, but for, I mean, Neverending's budget was determined by a couple of other people and not just myself. But when it comes to my own Kickstarters that I've run on my end, it, like I said, it really depends on the budget. With like the validation button Kickstarter, that one I left about $25 to $50 wiggle room for as a emergency buffer. For book projects, that buffer widens a bit, and that emergency buffer is for things like dropped pledges, shipping costs for international orders that cost way more than I thought it would.
Yeah.
Or like there were a couple of times where there was a book Kickstarter campaign that I was running, and some of the rewards were stuff that I could print from home. And I ended up running out of printer ink a couple of times during the fulfillment process. So I would have to like go and get printer ink. So like the emergency buffer money helped with that as well. It, like I said, it depends on the scope of the project that you are offering and what rewards you're offering too. Because like it does help for like example, if you can print some stuff at home yourself, that helps. But you also got to keep in mind, what if the printer runs out of ink? What if you run out of paper? Stuff like that.
Right. My general rule is when I'm putting this stuff together, first off, I like to try and have a couple $100 in buffer at least.
Yeah.
Because I go into it assuming, like I'm doing a lot of math, I'm trying to do worst case scenario math, and I go into everything assuming I did the math wrong. Because very often you do. Simple example on this last Kickstarter I did. First off, the printing process ended up kind of being a nightmare because 2020 happened, and that screwed up a lot of printers. So I ended up having to order additional backup copies. I had to resubmit the file several times, and they charge you every time you do that. There were all kinds of expenses like that. I did miscalculate slightly on the shipping charges by like $10, but you know, all of that, you want to have the money to cover that as well. And ideally, you also want to be paying yourself something.
Actually, while I'm thinking about it, well, first of all, I've been muting my mic off and on because I have very noisy neighbors upstairs. So if you see me muting the microphone, it's because they decided that now's the perfect time to drag their cement blocks across the wood floor.
Right.
But thinking about like costs for things and mistakes, this was what popped into my mind. What was a mistake or error that you've done in a campaign? Like, was there something that you forgot to account for? Was there something that messed up and you freaked out how to fix it? What happened? Like, what were some of the negative things that happened in a campaign?
Well, oddly, I think the hardest part was paying my contributors.
Really?
First few times I paid with check, and some people didn't cash them for like 6 months.
Oh,
I was like, oh, you guys. So for the last, I think 2, I have required PayPal.
Mhm.
I just can't have that happen again.
Fair. I admit, for a long time, I was that guy who never cashed checks. I'm better now
How
because
dare you? I cashed them within a week. Like,
You can
how
do it on
dare
your
you?
phone.
no, I cash them immediately, and a big part of that is I have a phone app that lets me cash my checks. Like everybody should have these; they are the best. But yeah, one of the big things for me, honestly, miscalculating shipping charges. That's where both campaigns I screwed up a little bit, and it wasn't that bad, thankfully. I went into Kickstarter having heard a number of horror stories from people who'd done Kickstarters, including Angela, actually, because you'd done a couple by the time I did my first one.
Yeah, because I was doing my first one when we went into CCS.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the main place where I'd screwed up at both campaigns. In the first one, I didn't really charge enough for I have it at a tier where I'd send people original artwork. And I didn't really budget very well for how much I was going to charge for doing that, because you have to ship that separately and you can't ship it media mail. But since only a handful of people did that, that didn't hurt me too badly. In the first campaign, I messed up international shipping, which is really easy to do.
Yeah.
Like
you don't even mess it up. You just can't. You're not a future teller.
It wasn't even, and it wasn't even because of that. It's just that I miscalculated. Like I misread the zone charts and things like that. Actually, that's another tip for people. USPS, when shipping physical stuff, is your friend, especially with books and comics, because media mail makes everything so easy to figure out. Your ship, as long as you know the weight of what you're going to ship out, or at least a rough range of the weight, you know how much it's going to cost to ship everywhere in the United States.
Yes.
As long as you're shipping pretty quickly after the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
People do Kickstarters, then draw the comic, then ship. Ugh.
Yeah.
That'd be a nightmare.
That's a good thing to know.
Yeah. Ideally, you would want to go into a Kickstarter campaign with like 80% of the work of the book already done. All that's left is the fulfillment and the distribution. And that's what the Kickstarter is for.
Yeah.
At least if you're printing a book or other physical media like buttons.
Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and go into one of my costly mistakes. Of the 11 campaigns that I have done, I have one campaign that failed, actually. Technically 2, but the first one that failed was run under my sister's name. I was involved with that as a co-promoter, but it wasn't under my name technically. But with both of those campaigns, the reasons that they failed was because we bundled up what should have been stretch goals and put them into the asking goal. Instead of just asking for the bare minimum that we needed to make a project happen. That was the reason that both campaigns failed. The one that my sister ran and the one that I ran, the one that failed. So pro tip for folks who want to run a Kickstarter, do the math to figure out the bare minimum that you need to make a project happen and add 5% to it to account for Kickstarter fees and drop pledges and stuff. Yeah. But always ask for the bare minimum that you need to make a project happen, because if you don't make that goal, like when you're asking for bare minimum, it is way easier to hit a goal when you're asking for bare minimum stuff. Like the button campaign that I did, realistically 100 was the bare minimum that I needed because I was only making one button set. By the end of the week, we raised enough money to make like 5 button sets and a book.
Right.
So, yeah, it was wild. That was the wildest 1 week Kickstarter campaign I had ever run.
Right. One thing with calculating the bare minimum cost, one of the tricks to that is figuring out which of your tiers is going to be the most expensive to make versus how much money you're getting. Because the basic tier for both my Kickstarters, just you're getting a physical copy of the book. That's actually expense-wise probably the worst of them, because with using the second book's math, I was doing it for $30 plus shipping, and the book itself was going to cost me about $11 per copy. So with some of the others, like when I'm doing the special edition versions, most of the costs in that are my labor costs, which I can eat if I need to. But I'm selling those copies for, I think I did 75 for the Kickstarter. It's actually 85 now if you guys didn't do it. So that's too bad for you, but give me money. But most of that is the raw materials are not necessarily that much more. It's the labor because I have to build the book. But every time someone sold a copy of that, my numbers got better. Just because I was I was a lot closer to the final goal, but my base costs weren't nearly as bad. So it's when you're calculating it, make sure you do the worst case scenario, but it's also a good idea. Next topic, to have higher tier stuff that's technically cheaper to you, but worth more to other people.
Yeah, commissions is a good high tier reward to offer if you are an illustrator yourself. Yeah, because that's what I typically do whenever it comes to a high level rewards. And there are people who, grace bless them, I don't know how they budget for this, but I have backers who have pledged to almost all of my Kickstarter campaigns, and they have pledged the highest level possible on all of them. And I'm like, I don't know how you do it, but thank you, bless you. Yeah, and the highest level reward tiers that I usually offer for the campaigns that I run anyway, that Neverending was its own unique bag, and I'll talk about that later. But when it comes to the campaigns that I ran, the highest level rewards that I had would be like you get a copy of the book, plus you get this other bonus thing that's like a stretch goal, and you get the highest level commission that you can get from me. And those are usually my highest level pledges on a Kickstarter campaign. There's been a couple where I would offer really oddball things. Like if you pledge this much, I'll make an appearance at a convention that you're running, but no one's ever pledged for those. I offer it and nobody buys it.
Yeah, but hey, they can't buy it if you don't offer it. So
that's true. But no, the most popular things are the commission levels.
Right.
But that's largely because with those campaigns, it's just me, and people know that it's just me, and they're pledging to support me, the artist, and somewhat the small business, but they know that it's me, and I'm a one-person operation.
Right.
With Neverending, that the highest level reward that we had was a lifetime package to the subscription service that we were offering, plus the ability to get your commission integrated into the app. Because we got some comments. Hi, Jessica. I was wondering when you were going to pop up.
Yeah, I was wondering.
She's usually one of the first ones. And yay, I caught a live. Yes. Good. We're glad to have you here. Because I see that we do have people watching, just not a lot of people leaving comments in the chat.
Yeah, I was surprised about that. Usually your chat is very loud.
Yeah, usually.
Good loud. I love you guys.
It's a good loud. It's like a, yay, I'm so excited to be here. So chat, if you have questions for us about Kickstarters and comics, or better yet, comics on Kickstarter, leave them in the chat and we will address them. Hello, Alicia.
So, Angela, what's the craziest top tier thing you've put on Kickstarter?
It's so weird. So I do these.
I like weird.
I really like Cabinets of Curiosity, and I really like fake Cabinets of Curiosity. So I offered that on the last 2 Awesome Possums as a 500 or 250. It was very high, and I actually did sell one, and it was just the absolute most fun project. So I take a little spice cabinet with all the little jars, and I fill them with different things. And then I actually made a tiny little book that was a little description of what each item was.
Oh
it
my
was
gosh.
so much fun. And I really want to do more of that.
That sounds really labor intensive, but also fun at the same time.
Yes, yes.
I
I have just a ton of wackadoo stuff. I have 2 filing cabinets full of random art supplies that I can use to fill these with. So one was like red shiny beads on a silver string. I called drops of blood on something I don't remember.
Oh my god.
That sounds like a lot of fun. You also do some mystery comic stuff, and that seems like that's something I've been thinking about doing is can we put an extra level of mystery into doing those Kickstarters? Like, can we send people stuff that's fun like that? There's actually, were you at CCS when I started getting the Hunt a Killer boxes?
I think so.
Yeah, this was
what?
So this is a Box of the Month club.
Yeah.
That I got into for a while. It's really cool. The whole idea is you're basically become a pen pal with Hannibal Lecter.
My god.
They've set up this whole fake thing where you are, and I do want to specify this entire thing's fake, but you're basically supposed to be like a pen pal for someone who's in a maximum security prison, and this person's sending you clues and hints in this box that you have to put together to figure out a larger crime and like figure out all the clues. They sent me a fake bloody knife one time. Okay, let me rephrase that. Real blade. It scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
No, actually, let me make that even better. It's like a pen knife. It's disguised to look like a pen. So it came with a warning in there saying, by the way, there's something sharp in here, just so you know. So they weren't crazy about it, but just messing with this pen, all of a sudden, sink.
That's awesome.
Like,
oh my gosh.
I've really thought about stuff like for a Kickstarter, what I'd want to do with that.
Yeah, man. Well, you're giving me ideas for the next campaign that I want to do, because I was thinking about not doing Kickstarters for the rest of 2020, but I'm reconsidering that stance because I'm participating in Inktober again, and every year after Inktober, I then go up on Kickstarter and I'm like, hey, would you like to see all of these Inktober sketches in a book? And I've been doing that for like 3 years now, and I kind of don't want to stop doing that because people like sketchbooks. But I do want to run a campaign for The Legend of Jamie Roberts to get chapters 1 through 3 into a trade paperback. And you're giving me the idea of, because orbs play very heavily into the plot, but the orbs are like the size of marbles. I'm thinking about just getting some marbles and adding like 1 marble to each like Kickstarter reward pack and being like, this is your orb, protect it with your life.
That kind of stuff's great. My last my last book, one of the things I did with the special editions only is my book has to do a lot with letters, like both of them do. The first one, I just did a custom letter from the antagonist of the book, L. So I did like a whole like handwritten looking thing, and that went in each of them. The second one is much more technologically based, so I did the entire thing in a code this time. And I've already had a few people who got the Kickstarter ones messaging me or like putting on social media, hey, I just got this book and it came with a code in it. I've been trying to decipher it all day. And I'm like, that's great advertising. That's the best.
Yeah, so having a reward that is thematic to the thing that you are making.
Yeah. And also, just in case anybody's watching this who does have that, like got that tier, look for the deeper code in the letter. Anyway. I had so much fun putting that together, by the way. And the other thing is, like, that's another example of comparatively cheap, cool things you can do, because the main cost of that is I printed it on nice paper. Sadly, I had to do it through like Office Depot rather than like do it myself like I normally would, because I'm not at home right now. I don't have my cool paper with me because I panicked when I was leaving, didn't bring everything. Yeah, like you can come up with all kinds of cool stuff with like that. I make book sleeves for all my special editions too. Have you ever done that, Angela? I know you've done book sleeves before, but for
book sleeves, not for Awesome Possum. So I tried doing it for my thesis at CCS and totally failed. I totally miscalculated something, and I ended up doing a belly band instead of a case.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Whoops.
For folks who are hearing the initial CCS and don't know what we're talking about, that's the Center for Cartoon Studies.
Yep. Angela and I were class of 2016, so
Yeah.
I never went.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with it. I was thinking about possibly doing like a summer intensive there, but it never worked out that way. But that's fine.
It's there are a lot of CCS people involved in the anthology, and I always feel a little bad because there's so much inside baseball getting talked.
And it just flies over my head anytime that there's meetings going on and they start talking about stuff like that, and I'm just like, shoes.
Admittedly, that's how I always felt at CCS when people started naming indie cartoonists, because I knew none when I went there. I was the guy who was into superhero comics.
Oh.
And so they'd say, Adrian Tomine, and I'd just be kind of like, that tree is really far away.
Yeah. And I know that guy, like not personally, but I know who Adrian is. And it's just funny to me because when I went to I was the opposite in my undergrad. Like I went to grad school. I never went to grad school. But when I was in college, I was that one token kid that knew the indie comicers, but everybody else was like, "Oh, so Spider-Man?" And no. Yeah. I was the opposite.
Yeah. You would have had an interesting time at CCS because you'd go there and every single other person would be exactly like that. And there'd be the one guy. Yeah. Then I'd be the guy in the corner talking about Green Arrow, and everyone would be like, yeah.
What a dork.
What a dork. Nerd.
Yeah.
Nerdiness is relative.
Yes. Speaking of in-world objects.
Yeah.
One person who I get a lot of inspiration for in-world objects is Shing Kor. Have you seen their work?
Nope. No idea who that is.
She does this. She does a lot of sculptures and like she did a bar that was based on Paul Bunyan and the Big Blue Ox. So she would make a lot of in-world items like coasters. I've got coasters from that bar. And I've got, I don't have it on me, but she has an apothecary that she does stuff for. So like a big water bottle that says arsenic on it, which is my favorite water bottle. She does all sorts of really cool in-world objects.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I will also say, getting back to the Kickstarter a little bit, all this cool stuff that we're suggesting, before you put it in a Kickstarter, make sure you know exactly how much it's going to cost.
Yes.
And then again, assume you were wrong.
Round up.
Round up. Yes.
When it comes to the math for Kickstarters, you want to treat it like a carpenter would measurements. You measure twice, nail it once.
Yeah.
I'm going to disagree with that slightly, because you should measure twice and then still cut a little bit too big.
That's true.
But yeah,
in
principle,
it's all numbers.
Yes,
exactly.
Lots of spreadsheets, lots of Excel sheets with lots of math.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because I actually kind of deliberately undercalculated the shipping on this last one, because the media mail cost to ship out pretty much every tier of my book was $3.33, something like that, and I only charged $3. But that was specifically, I went into it knowing that was going to happen.
Yeah.
And just not wanting to charge any more than $3 for that. And also, when people were getting more expensive packages where it would get heavier because they were getting like 2 books, I charged, I think, $4, and it would be $3.86. So it ended up kind of balancing out.
Yeah.
But if you're going to do a calculation like that, make sure you know that you're doing that, and make sure you have a buffer in there anyway.
Round up the numbers. Exactly.
Do you guys charge full price on Kickstarter stuff? Like, is it the same as your retail price when it's eventually released, or do you do it any cheaper? Because I usually do $5 cheaper on everything.
Well, there was one campaign that I did where, and I don't remember which campaign it was, but it was an early one where I offered a slight discount on the
Mhm.
book compared to the official retail price after Kickstarter fulfillment was done.
Right.
But I haven't done it since. I sell on Kickstarter at the retail price that I would have it listed at a convention.
Me
Mm.
too.
Just to be consistent with any buyers who might have missed the Kickstarter campaign who want to get the book later. But
Yeah.
that's a me thing. For me, Kickstarter is more a place that you back to get the rewards that you don't offer at conventions, like marbles that are
Yeah.
or
Right.
Yeah.
or dinosaur figurines or a like Kickstarter exclusive zine. I've done Kickstarter exclusive zines. Like one of the first campaigns that I did for Johnson and Sir, one of the stretch goals was that every backer would get Rubber Duck the Reckoning, a mini comic, because there was this ongoing gag in my comics at the time where Rubber Duck the Reckoning and the movie posters for it would appear in the background in various like comic panels. And there were enough people that were like, please make Rubber Duck the Reckoning a thing. And I was like, it's going to be a mini comic and it's going to be a Kickstarter exclusive for like a year. And then like a year after that, then I started selling it at conventions, but for a different price.
Right.
But that's how I treat it. That's how I treat Kickstarters. Is Kickstarters are like your first chance to grab a thing, and like if you back it on Kickstarter, you get Kickstarter exclusive rewards.
Right.
And doubly so for people who are also patrons on Patreon who also back a Kickstarter, because I love it when people like double dip in that sense. Like
Yeah.
when they love the stuff so much that they are willing to not only support you on a monthly basis, but also pledge to get the first thing that you are offering. So when a patron backs a Kickstarter
Speaking of,
campaign, yes, I like to give them like other bonuses. Like it could be like a patron exclusive mini print or a patron exclusive mini comic, or it can be some other like bonus for them that only patrons who back the Kickstarter get.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, always feel a little weird about doing that, just because I want people to have access to all my stuff because they might buy it. But I know what you mean. Like I've had a lot of trouble figuring out exactly what to make available on Kickstarter, because the one thing like that I've done is I do these 9x12 illustrations that are in the style of my book.
Yeah.
That like top level people can get, and those are some of the biggest pains to make, honestly. But it's just about the only thing in there that you can't theoretically get later. I do generally honestly, I discounted the first book by accident because I thought I was going to be able to sell it for 20, and then when all the math came together, I'm like, oh, I would get like $1 for each retail copy sold. So I got to push it up to 25. But I was like, you know what? That's fine. My Kickstarter people get it for 20. They were the first to back me, and I still make a profit because I'm selling it to them direct. So,
pro tip for the people watching: do your math.
Yes. I had
to check your math.
Yeah,
and double check your math.
I hadn't done the proper retailer math. That's where it bit me.
What do you do now to calculate? I do like 3 or 4 times the cost to print.
That's always generally what I went for. The cost was coming in at about $8.30 a copy for my first book, and I was shooting to sell it for 20 because I knew that's a little on the low side, but it's like I don't want to sell the book for more than 20. Who's going to buy it at 20? And I eventually had to do 25. The second book, it costs about $11 a copy. By the way, I'm including shipping in that, like shipping 100 copies of the book to me. That's how it breaks down.
Yeah.
But it would cost about $11 a copy, so I'm doing 35.
Oh, talking about shipping actually reminds me, something that has helped my Kickstarters in the past is taking the cost of shipping for US backers and just adding that into the reward tier itself. So like if I'm trying to sell a book for like $5 per copy and shipping is $5, the reward tier for that is 10, and then the listing will say free shipping for US backers, because then that just makes the math easier for your potential backer to look at it, so that they don't have to do the math in their head for how much shipping is going to cost.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, that's another thing when you're factoring your pricing. If you are going to do shipping charges, which is what I've always done, I kind of like your suggestion, Kelsey, because that would probably make that work out a lot better technically. But if you do additional shipping costs and things like that, that's going to factor into your total. Like, it's not just extra money. My book, this last one, were $30. If you're getting it in the US, that means you're paying $33. So when you're doing all your calculations, you're getting an extra $3 every single book, and that's going to mean you hit goal a little bit quicker. Another factor that I do want to bring up is that some people, and I love you guys, I have no idea why you would possibly do this, but they give you more money than you ask for on a specific tier. And that is
a problem.
It's not a problem. I'm trying to make that clear. And it's also not something you should expect to happen when you're doing your math. But when it does happen, it's so cool.
It's very, very nice when people do that. Yeah. Oh, there was one campaign. It was the most recent one before a Never-Ending campaign. I'm trying to remember which book this was for. I think it was Jamie Roberts issue 2, the Kickstarter for that one. Somebody backed at a super high level, and then I followed up with them and I was like, okay, so because you backed at this level, you get this thing and this thing and this thing. Would you also like this thing? It's technically something from like a lower tier, but I saw that you were eyeballing this thing. And the person emailed me back and was like, so I was going to wait until the campaign was over, and then I would just PayPal you the difference because I also really want this other reward that you have on your Kickstarter campaign. And I'm like, what? Like, what?
Yeah.
So that's really, really nice.
One of the things that the one big messaging thing I did, besides a couple people that I had to remind to complete their survey. By the way, complete your damn surveys when you get them.
Please do.
Seriously.
Oh my God. For anybody who might have backed the Never-Ending campaign who have not filled out their surveys, please fill out your surveys.
You know who the one holdout on filling out the survey is? Like, one person still hasn't filled out their Kickstarter survey, even though my Kickstarter, like, everything's done. That's my dad.
Yeah.
He said, do I really need to do this? And I'm like, I know where you live. It's fine. But I did have one person who backed me at the top level who took a really long time to get back to me, and I got nervous. I almost emailed them directly. I was like, I don't want to bother this person, but I really need this information because they bought like all this great stuff.
Yes.
And then they ended up doing it, but I got very nervous for a while. The other thing that tends to come up, you will get a few people who end up backing you that are sort of advertisers. They're like, they may back for $1, and like I got I'm happy to give these guys shout outs because they actually have been really cool. I got one from the Creative Fund who didn't ask for anything. They just donated $1.
They do that for my campaigns too.
Yeah. And Print Ninja did one, and Print Ninja is a reputable offset printer, and they like donated, I want to say $5, which is a lot for one of these groups, and basically then sent me a private message, saying, hey, have you considered using Print Ninja? And normally, by the way, you'll also get a lot of spam private messages.
So many. Like, that's something to just watch out for.
This is the only one I didn't. I actually emailed them back saying, I've heard good things about your company. I actually looked at you. I can't use you for this one, but I'll keep you in mind in the future. And that just kept business stuff open. And both those advertisers, I also messaged them after the Kickstarter because they didn't ask for any reward. They just gave me money. And said, hey, I know you guys didn't actually ask for anything. I know this is kind of a general thing you guys do, but you did make enough money to get the bottom, like $1, get a thank you on my website for backing the Kickstarter and have a link to whatever you want on there. So if you wanted a link to your business, I'd be happy to put it on there. They never responded, but like, you offer this stuff and people think you're cool. Yeah.
There's actually a couple of, I'm not going to get into too many details about it because some of it is confidential and some of it is like, there are some companies that actually want to write a letter of intent about what it is, but Neverending has been eyeballed by a lot of indie companies. And there are a lot of indie companies that want to partner with Neverending.
Yeah.
So that's really, really cool. But I can't get into too much detail about it because a lot of it is still confidential.
Yeah. One place where these guys do get me can get in trouble though. I have this didn't happen on my second Kickstarter. On my first one, I had someone who backed me just so they could send an ad, and then after everything was being collected, I think they backed me for like $10 or something like that, and then they ghosted. Like I didn't actually get the money. They were only one of 2 dropped pledges. I think the second one was just someone who didn't know how Kickstarter worked and weren't set up properly.
Gotcha.
But I actually reported the other guy because it read so much as a scam. I'm like, if this had dropped me below my target amount, which thankfully it didn't, but if I'd been in a much closer race, that could have been catastrophic. I could have, like, I don't know exactly how Kickstarter would have handled it, but I'd be worried about losing all the money because it's an all or nothing system.
Yeah. So that's something for folks who might be looking to run a Kickstarter campaign to watch out for, is not just the people who are going to send you spam email through Kickstarter, the platform, because you can send messages to other people in Kickstarter itself.
Yeah.
And there will be people who will email you and say, hey, I really like the look of your campaign. Do you want to get your campaign out to more eyeballs? If you click on this link, I can get you to this program. And don't click on that. That's spam.
Yeah.
Like, just don't do it.
Yeah, and that's going to happen a lot. It happens, honestly, that's just something you get used to in any kind of business. As soon as you have a website, you start getting that spam.
Oh, yeah.
That, although you mentioned getting stuff out to more eyeballs, can we direct this a little bit to advertising your Kickstarter? Because that is, that's the worst. But it's something you have to do.
Yeah. Advertising anything is the worst. It's my least favorite thing.
I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it, but that could be just because I like talking to people about my stuff. But there are some outreach aspects that are like, I guess I have to do this, but I don't wanna.
Yeah, no, I feel so dirty doing all the selling stuff, which is funny because you may have noticed I don't shut up. It's I always feel so awkward asking anybody, like, you want to take a look at my Kickstarter? I got a thing you could buy.
So I gotta give props to Jamie, who helps helm Neverending about this, because he's not afraid to like reach out to people who are adjacent to the project to be like, hey, can you give us a shout out on social media? Do you want to do a piece about us? And just that outreach is super helpful. I'm normally not afraid to do it. It's just a matter of, at least for me, finding the right people to outreach to. Yeah. Because I'm very picky and selective about who I outreach to ask for signal boost purposes. Yeah. Because like I do have a circle of like comics friends that I reach out to, and I'm like, hey, can you give me a shout out on Twitter? Because weirdly enough, this is probably going to freak out a good chunk of people who are watching this. I don't have a Twitter account, and I deleted my Facebook page back in like April. So like the only social media platform that I have right now, technically, is Instagram. And yes, Instagram is super helpful, but I also have an email newsletter. For me, the email newsletter is the most successful outreach that I have to reach out to people and let them know that I have a Kickstarter happening and I have stuff for sale. Yeah. Instagram is nice, but it does not have the same sort of return on investment that email newsletters do for me.
Especially since links don't work on Instagram. That drives me crazy. Yeah, it really only works on Instagram once you get like a certain 1,000.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Like a number of followers. Yeah, it's all a numbers game on Instagram, which fine, but get an email newsletter.
So weirdly for me, because I have a tendency to do what a friend of mine referred to as posting and ghosting, where I use social media almost exclusively to post when I'm doing stuff and almost never read it, because
Yeah.
Especially this year, it's gotten kind of nuts.
Mhm.
The social media that I use the absolute least, but technically have an account for, is Facebook.
Mhm.
But what's weird is that's where most of my Kickstarter backers come from. Like in both Kickstarters, I had over a third of them come directly from Facebook.
Mhm.
So it's one of those things that I'm a little reluctant to get rid of. I just kind of, when I have something major to announce, I just post there and I make sure not to read anything.
Me too.
But yeah, like this last time. So my first Kickstarter, I cleared the tier really fast. I was only asking for $1,000. I had 30 days. I made goal in 7. Which, first off, if you can pull that off, I recommend it because it's so much less stressful. Holy
Yeah.
crap!
Yeah.
And that's why you do your lowest goal.
Yeah.
Yes, that's why you ask for your bare minimum
Yes.
so that you can meet it sooner, and then the rest of the campaign you can relax a little easier.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the second book, like on my first campaign, I'd made around $1,500 when I'd asked for 1,000. I'm like, okay, this is a new book. I have an actual mailing list now, partially because of Kelsey's advice.
Yes.
I have a Patreon. I have people actually following my work. No one was doing that the first time, and I still made this money. I'm going to ask for 2,000. That's still pretty much bare minimum cost. It's not that much more or anything like that. I think I can do this. And it took me pretty much all 30 days of the Kickstarter to make that. I was having agita the entire time. It was a nightmare. But part of what helped where I ended up, because I kept trying to do some of the advertising stuff, it wasn't doing a lot.
Yeah.
And I talked to a few people about this, and one of the things I was encouraged to do, as dirty as it made me feel, was to DM everyone who followed me on social media.
Oh,
Ooh.
that
I know.
sounds labor intensive.
Yes.
I had a copy paste thing. I basically just went through everyone that followed me on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, and sent them a direct message.
Gotcha.
And the first thing that surprised me is I only had like 4 people stop following me. I was expecting everyone to stop following me the first time I said this.
Yeah.
But like it worked. I got a number of people who checked out the link and were like, "Yeah, I'll back this." I also, for one person, got a thing where they said, "I can't back a Kickstarter right now, but do you want to appear on my live stream tomorrow?" And I did, and I got a couple of other backers from that. Like, you never know how the advertising is going to work, and sometimes people will see this and then they signal boost you.
Yeah.
I wouldn't make a habit of it, but when you're doing a big Kickstarter, yeah, like that's one other resource you have.
Yeah. Also, you really shouldn't feel sleazy for directly reaching out to people in like a private message and saying, "Hey, I'm doing a campaign right now. Would you consider backing me?" Or at least sharing the message. Like that's like a one-on-one thing. Like it probably only feels sleazy to you because you don't like to sell.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another big thing. I think most people feel a little bit sleazy when they try to sell their own stuff. You just got to get over that. It's part of the business.
Yeah. Well, I got over that pretty fast because before I went into comics, I was a caricature artist at Cedar Point, and you have to get over that.
Yes.
If you are going to be a caricature artist at Cedar Point, you do not have room to be like, "Oh, I feel really gross and squicky for asking this person to sit in my seat." No, you own it. That is your business. It is your business to entertain people. You go right up to that person and you're like, "I would love to draw you. You have such a great face. Please sit down for me." Like, you gotta have the enthusiasm to not only like share your thing, but share how much you love doing the thing.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing when you're selling, basically. Yeah.
And then one other thing that can help with that also, we mentioned a little bit getting people to signal boost you. It is so much easier for other people to sell your stuff. Like if you know people that you can be like, "Hey, like my friend John runs a podcast, shout out to Playdisc." And like he actually said, "Hey, you got a Kickstarter coming out. You want to record an ad for us and we will put it in the middle of the next episode?" And I'm like, "Sure." And I did, and I sent it to him, and then because he's an audiophile, he made my audio sound better.
Yeah. Good.
He's a musician. He knows how this stuff works.
Mhm.
But yeah, he gave me Signal Boost, and he posted stuff on his social media, like, hey, because I also am their title card artist. So they were like, hey, our title card artist is running a Kickstarter, and they run a Discord, and they posted stuff in there. Like, you can get a lot of stuff like that. And I just signal boosted him. It's so easy to signal boost other people.
Yes. I want to highlight Jessica's comment. Sell yourself. People follow you for a reason. They like your stuff and want more.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So just get over yourself. Reach out to people and just be like, hey, would you like to? Because
that's one of
they
my
follow you for a reason.
biggest, or one of my hardest problems is doing that. But that's what I like about Awesome Possum is I don't have to sell my work. I get to sell other people's work. I mean, I'm in there as well, but it makes it a lot easier. It puts that little distance that I need.
So weirdly, one of the things that sells best for me at con tables, and I have no idea why, is this veteran anthology that I helped with, that I participated in one of the stories for. That it's one of the things CCS did with the VA hospital in Vermont. And what's interesting about it is I was barely involved in this. I interviewed one person and I helped do the tech for that story, but someone else drew it and did the writing and did everything with that. So my contribution feels somewhat minimal. It's one of my best sellers at cons. And a part of that may be that it's easier for me to sell that book. I actually have a bunch of copies back here because my dad bought a stack to give to the VA and didn't end up giving it to the VA. It still needs to happen.
Yeah, that does still need to happen.
Yeah. It can be tough, but you just have to remember, for your Kickstarter to be in shape, you got to have abs. Always be selling.
Yeah. And selling doesn't have to be super duper sleazy. Yeah. Like, selling is basically going up to somebody and saying, hey, I'd like to collaborate with you.
Yep.
And by collaborate, I mean, could you help out? Like, if you help me get this project, you can get this reward in return. Like, that's all a Kickstarter is you are asking for somebody to back you and they will get something in return for backing you. That's all a Kickstarter is. Basically.
Yeah. I think the best trick with it is, keep it positive, your work's good, pay it, don't downplay it at all. It's like, this is not that great. Like, it's so tempting to do that with your own stuff. But at the same time, be honest. Like, people have really good bullshit detectors.
They do. This is something this is something that's talked about in go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just didn't say, like, that's a big part of where people don't like shilling is because shilling usually feels like you're being fed snake oil. More genuine you are, the better.
So, a funny story. Actually, I'm going to get up for a second to show off this book because I've been rereading this book, and I think some of the tips in it are going to be super helpful with this discussion of, like, how to sell your stuff. So, one sec, I'm going to go get the book.
Cool. Quick, talk only about CCS.
Yeah, right.
How do you usually sell your stuff? Like, just you're able to market it because it's other people's stuff?
When I'm advertising the Awesome Possum Kickstarter, one of the things I've started doing is sending out a little interview sheet for each of the contributors to fill out. And then over the course of the Kickstarter, I will post those interviews as part of the advertisement.
Yeah.
That is something I thought about doing for the anthology too. Like, I thought that'd be really cool.
Yeah. Something else that'll, if you're looking to run a Kickstarter campaign, post updates.
Yeah.
That's what they're there for, is to help engage with the people who have not only backed you already, but for people who are maybe on the fence and just want to see that you are still active.
Yeah. I know as a backer, I love updates. I backed this tiny tree houses. It's little tiny tree houses that you can put in your plants. It might still be going on.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's so cute. And I love getting updates. And most of his updates are like, you guys, we've made so much money. What's even happening? I don't understand. I'm like, this is wonderful.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so this book that I wanted to show off is Business for Punks, Break All the Rules the Brewdog Way by James Watt. James Watt is like one of the founders of a beer business called Brewdog. They're based in the UK, but they do have a flagship bar in Columbus, Ohio. But yeah, if you have not gotten this book, get this book. It talks about pretty much everything that you need to know for business stuff. It talks about like how to crunch the numbers, how to market yourself, how to sell stuff. And one of the passages that I highlighted was basically like the traditional form of advertising is dead. What you need to do is you need to take advantage of word of mouth, because that is going to be your biggest tool. And consumers and customers have really good, pardon my French, bullshit detectors.
Yeah.
They can tell when you are being skeezy and trying to sell to them. So just be genuine. Like one of the like highlighted passages that he highlighted himself in this book was, why try to fill in a gap in the market when you can be authentic?
So why try to fill in a gap in the market when you can be authentic? So it's not what he's saying is, don't try to pander to an untapped demographic, pander to your demographic. Is that the idea?
Basically.
Okay.
The book, the back of the book says, if anyone ever tells you to look for a gap in the market, tell them to go to hell. It's very much that kind of book.
That's funny, because I'm actually very much in the camp of look for gaps in the market. I'm curious about that attitude. I need to read into that.
Yeah, it depends. Because like, here's another little tidbit of wisdom. This one's from Scott McCloud from his book Making Comics. At one point, he was like, don't try to hop onto the biggest selling thing right now, because there are other people who are passionate about that topic and they will kick your ass every time.
Right.
When also the current trend might not be the trend by the time you finish what you're working on. So if you're not passionate about it, what was the point?
This is very true. Like the thing that it's been really interesting trying to put out these graphic novels, because by the time when you go from starting to draw one to finishing it, in many cases, stuff that's like if you try to cover anything topical, it ends up outdated, or like I actually didn't find. So I included a non-binary character in my second book, and I didn't find out until after I'd done the Kickstarter and was finishing putting everything together, because I started this a couple years ago, and then I found out I screwed up how the pronouns work a little bit. Not anything serious. I found the main thing is I discovered the phrase themself, and I did not know that was a thing. And I used themselves at several points, and I later was like, oh, that's not what they necessarily would have used. Well, crap. I can't sometimes this stuff will move fast and you'll learn about stuff and it's just hard to fix. And it's one of the things that made me frustrated that fulfillment of my Kickstarter took as long as it did, because, thanks 2020.
Yeah. Speaking from my own experience, I'm thinking of The Legend of Jamie Roberts. So The Legend of Jamie Roberts is the story of a genderqueer pirate and their two best friends treasure hunting in a land full of dragons. This is a market that technically doesn't exist, and it does not fill a gap in any way, but it is a story that only I can tell. Right. So whenever James Watt is like, if somebody tells you to find a gap in the market, tell them to go to hell. Just make the thing that you are passionate about.
Yes.
And also tying in with a Neil Gaiman sentiment, like, yeah, you might think that the world has enough comic artists, but none of them are you.
Right.
You have a voice and you have a way to tell a story that is unique and that is going to resonate with other people. And that is what they are buying when they support you on Kickstarter.
Right.
Confidence.
Yes.
Yep.
Deep inhale.
You gotta fake your confidence until you
actually
hypothetically have it, but you never will.
Yep.
At least in my experience.
I love my stuff.
Yeah, there's something I feel like I have to bring up with this also, so almost as a counterpoint. And I know I've talked about this before on your streams, Kelsey.
Yeah.
There was a writer, a comic writer I met at one point. This was actually, Angela, you were at the first part of this con, so you may remember this. We went to a con in New England. I don't actually want to name the con because it was really bad. This is the con where the second day
I didn't even go.
You didn't come back, yeah, because you're like, it's not even worth the drive down.
Oh no!
Do you
really
remember
bad.
the guys who were next to us doing
Yeah,
hard selling? Yeah,
they were rough.
here's the thing that was amazing. Like periodically, like this con did not go well for us, and I went back the second day. I'm the only person at my table who went back because it was that bad, and I'm like, I'll see it out. But I also did some walking around and talking to other creators, and everyone was freaked out because they're like, we didn't make table, we didn't even come close, except for the people right next to us who were hard selling the entire time. And they were really hard selling. The artist was just kind of behind the table drawing, but the writer was basically in front of the table and talking to people like, hey, you like superheroes? You like revenge? You love this comic. And he's like putting it in their hands and showing him his favorite part and doing all this stuff. And they were making bank. I remember at one point, like during a lull, I'd said to the guy, like, how is this working? Because you're basically spoiling your comic and they're still buying it. And what he said was, people don't come to Comic-Cons to buy comics. They come to buy a Comic-Con experience. That's what I'm giving them. They're getting the comic as a bonus.
Exactly. That is handy for comic conventions. Maybe not necessarily for Kickstarter, because promoting a Kickstarter is largely online.
Yeah.
So the way to spin that would be, if you're going to be reaching out to like other websites, reaching out to them and being like, when you reach out to somebody, you should ask how it is that you want to like help promote their work, not just your work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's I basically said the anecdote I wanted to say. And I had to have said that, 50 billion times on these streams. I know that guy has come up before, because sales are an awkward thing that we all have to deal with and talk about. And that was one of the big ones for me.
We have a cost pain reader in the comments.
Yeah.
That was a good cost pain episode.
Yep.
Accurate.
Yeah, that was a fun. There's a Carnival Barker character I created for whenever I needed a tabler who does hard selling. A lot of fun anytime he comes up. I always look at it and was like, that's who I want to be. Like if I ever did a Cospain cosplay of my own, that might be who I want to do, just so I can have the big old fake handlebar mustache. Also, fun fact, my friend Trixie came up with a name for that guy. He's Archibald Parker, the Carnival Barker.
Nice.
Right? Isn't that the best name?
That is the best name for a Carnival Barker. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Every single time I do any kind of sales, though, I do think about that guy. Like, what would he do?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe turn that down a little bit, and then I do that.
Yeah, because I'm wondering how much reader retention he gets from people he sells that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like how many people are buying it just so they can escape.
I like to think that for that character, that's okay for him, because he's doing enough sales, getting people to escape. That's fine. Then there's the other tabler characters who are much more like what I'm actually like as a tabler.
Yeah. Going back to how to promote your Kickstarter campaign, though, it does help to look at not just the friends that you already have, but also to look at people and or organizations that are like adjacent to what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So with The Legend of Jamie Roberts, one of the suggestions that I got from a friend of mine was to reach out to LGBTQ nonprofits because it's about a genderqueer pirate. Like,
Right.
teenagers would be, I would assume, all over that because me as a teenager would be all over that. Which is another thing. I would recommend if you're going to be making something that you want to put on Kickstarter, make something that you would read as a reader. If you're going to be putting a comic up, like whenever somebody talks about making something for yourself, I interpret that as make it for yourself as an audience member. There's a difference between making something for yourself, the audience member, and making something for yourself, the artist. Because only other artists are going to get the thing that you make as an artist. If you're making something for you, the audience member, more people are going to resonate with that.
Yeah.
It's an interesting way to think about it.
Yeah.
It's funny because I always describe Cospain as one of the most commercial things I've made, because a big part of me was thinking this would make my friends laugh more than anything. I wasn't necessarily doing it because I was like, this is going to be my big project. And it seems to be the one that everyone's catching on to. So I'm like, oh, I guess I'll do more Cospain and like run with this more. It's taken off a lot more than I had originally expected it to. And honestly, I'm really happy about that. Like it's really cool. And people are connecting it in a much more real way. But I was always kind of thinking the stories I want to do are like the darker, like mystery comics and stuff like that, or do more horror comics. And all of a sudden I'm doing comedy and I'm like, people like this?
I think you are stronger in comedy, man. I mean, just based on what I've read, your comedy, you're always funny. Yeah. And just like as a person, when we're having conversations, you're always humorous.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because also so far comedy, of all the things I've had to, of all the genres I've worked with, it's the scariest. I'm not going to say it's the hardest because I honestly think mystery writing is probably a little harder, but comedy's so much scarier. Like the pressure's on when you're doing comedy.
I get that. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's interesting because I actually think Cospain may be the one big work I don't do a Kickstarter for, because I'm thinking about shopping bigger publishers on that one when I do it, when it's time for a book.
Yeah.
Yeah, which actually may not be that far from now. Going back to Kickstarters for a minute, there is one thing I wanted to ask about. Has anyone...
I just lost you.
I think you muted yourself.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, yeah.
Okay, cool, yeah. This headset is short. Sometimes it dies if I don't unplug it and plug it back in again. Have you guys used Indiegogo or anything similar? Like any non-Kickstarter crowdfunding campaign?
I've backed on Indiegogo. I'm rarely happy with it, though, as a backer.
Mm-hmm. I've not used Indiegogo. I'm familiar with the platform because of internet uncles John and Hank Green of the Blog Brothers fame. Mm-hmm. They do a campaign once a year on Indiegogo for Project for Awesome. And that's how they run Project for Awesome, because Indiegogo allows for charitable events like that. Kickstarter does not. So that's another thing to consider if you want to run a Kickstarter campaign, is that Kickstarter doesn't really allow you to like go on there to launch a campaign for a nonprofit cause. They want you to make a product. Mm-hmm. That's what Kickstarter is for. Right. If you want to run an event or you want to do a nonprofit cause or something like that, you're going to need to find other crowdfunding platforms to do that with. The only other crowdfunding platform that I've used is Patreon, but Patreon is a separate beast.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I've not used Indiegogo before.
Angela?
And I've not backed on it. Wait, I did back an Indiegogo. I backed 2 Indiegogos. They were both animation projects. One of them was Don Bluth's Dragon Age. Or
Dragon's Lair.
Dragon Age. Was it?
Dragon's Lair.
Dragon's Lair.
Yeah.
There was a dragon in there somewhere. I brain farted. But yeah, I backed his Indiegogo campaign for that, and I actually got some like really cool bonuses as a result because of the level that I pledged at. He like at a certain level he actually gives you material that's like animation tutorial stuff,
Right.
which is really really cool.
I think
Like
I know.
to get animation tutorial stuff from Don Bluth, the director of An American Tail, Land Before Time, The Secret of Nim, and various other movies.
Yeah. I think Rainer backed that Kickstarter because I remember him talking about those animation tutorials.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Angela, you said you weren't happy when you backed Indiegogos in the past. Like what?
Well, one, I never got my stuff.
Oh.
Yeah, and I contacted the person like I don't know, a few times a year for like 3 years and was like, "Hey, I just wanted to check in and see if I'm ever going to get this. Hey, what's going on?"
Yeah.
Never got it. So I've always had more problems like that with Indiegogo.
Mm-hmm.
I think eventually I've gotten most things. There's the one that I never got anything. But I haven't had that problem on Kickstarter.
Mm.
Yeah.
And that could just be random chance. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's also that a lot of people are more savvy now with backing because I know in the beginning of Kickstarter was a little Wild West.
Yeah.
There's a great Penny Arcade comic about that, about coming across a really, really obviously fake Kickstarter campaign where it just this guy in an A-frame T-shirt just being like, "Hi, I'm Bob Internet, the inventor of the internet," or something like that. No, it was Bob Video Games, the inventor of video games.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah, and the one that I didn't get the thing I bought is an artist who's still working. I know they still do stuff. I don't know what happened with that. It's very weird.
it's very weird.
Yeah,
So who remembers the potato salad Kickstarter?
That
That
name
rings a bell.
I love how you both said it at the same time. So I don't remember what year this happened in, but there was a year where somebody went onto Kickstarter to crowdfund a potato salad and everyone lost their minds because there were people who were like, how dare you get on Kickstarter just to fund making a potato salad? And then there were other people who were like, I can't believe this person raised this many thousands of dollars just to make a potato salad. And yet nobody took away the marketing lessons from that.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm sure a
Yeah.
lot of people took away the marketing lessons from that.
Yeah.
But it's funny coming across some of that and just being like, why didn't I think of that? Like this person just made a ton of money.
Yeah.
And if from what you're describing, I don't remember the exact thing, but they were completely honest about what they were doing, right? It wasn't.
Yes, they were completely honest. All of the reward levels were like, if you pledge this much, I will say your name while making the video where I show you how to make the potato salad. Or something like that. And there were other levels that were just like that. Carlos just left a comment. Was the potato salad good? I don't know. I didn't back the Kickstarter.
And even if you did, you probably wouldn't have gotten any of the potato salad. Like that's
I don't know.
It wasn't
Maybe that was one of the levels. Maybe one of the levels was, hey, you can fly out and you can join me as we eat the potato salad.
Yeah, but it kind of makes me think of just because of crazy system breaking things like that. Makes me think of the thing that happened with Wikipedia a long time ago with the chicken article. Do you remember this?
No. Real quick though, I want to add. My roommate just said to me, she's pretty sure that the guy who was making the potato salad ended up donating a lot of it to charity. Like he made a shit ton of potato salad, pardon my language, and then he donated it to like a food bank.
That's awesome.
That's pretty great.
Just an update. Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Distribute this while it's still fresh. But yeah, the Wikipedia chicken thing was actually it was cited for a long time as why Wikipedia is not a reliable source. Because you remember back in the day, it was really questioned a lot. But I want to say it was a group of people in a chat room decided to have some fun by basically each of them would go into the article, the Wikipedia article for chickens, and add new stupid facts, and it blew out of proportion. The entire page got nuts.
Oh no.
Yeah, and it all happened in like 24 hours, so it took a while for it to get taken down. I think there's an archive version of it somewhere, but
Oh my gosh.
yeah, like people love messing with the internet.
Yeah.
But yeah, speaking of legitimacy in Kickstarters, you do want to make sure your Kickstarter always looks legit, even if, say, you have crazy delays, which I've had.
Mhm.
People understand, especially this year. People understand that delays happen if you're
Yeah.
upfront about it. Don't hide it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, I'd post updates saying, "Hey, listen, my
Mhm.
printer's way backed up because pandemic, like, it's causing all kinds of crazy stuff." Here's
Mhm.
the other thing, though. A lot of people who backed you who don't normally use Kickstarter, i.e., family friends, that's actually happened. That's how I've gotten a lot of my money. Is like my mom's college roommates and stuff like that have backed and things like that, and like
Mhm.
extended family people. But a lot of them don't use Kickstarter a lot and may not see your updates and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I did have a couple people when my mom was having video chats, because everyone's having video chats right now.
Yeah.
Whenever I come in, the friend needs to be like, "Hey, where's my book?" And I'm like, they're joking to some degree, but I'm also just like, it's coming. I'm sorry, I'm working on it.
Yeah.
So it is
Mhm.
important to keep in touch with your people, especially if there are delays. Just let them know what's going on, why
Yeah.
it's delayed, and
Yeah.
try to forgive
And-
yourself for the delays. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
I have not been doing that well, but
Also, like, share that message across multiple platforms, not just in Kickstarter updates, but let them know on your social media platforms that you have and in your email newsletter. Just open communication. And also, I don't remember where I came across this. It might have been in a marketing class back when I was in school, but there was a adage that you have to send a message 5 times before it gets received once.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard
So-
that. But that's a good adage. I need to keep that in
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah, so that's another reason to have like social media outlets and an email newsletter and Kickstarter updates, is so that you can post those messages in those places and it'll stick somewhere.
Eventually.
You don't know which of those outlets it's going to stick with
Yeah.
the most. But it is better to like say the message 5 times so that eventually it will stick once.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and especially for Kickstarters, because that is something you have to do as the squeaky wheel mentality. You have to be. I think I had it set up so that I wasn't necessarily posting every day, but it felt pretty close.
Yeah.
And you can. People won't see every single one. It feels like you're bombarding everybody, and you're not.
Yeah. Yeah. As long as you post at least once a day. I feel like if you post multiple times a day, that might be a bit much. But
Yeah.
like one a day max. And even then, not everybody's going to see your messages, and that's fine. The other thing too is that Kickstarter, whenever you're about to launch a campaign, it'll have a section for risks, or like the risks involved. And that's for people who might be eyeballing your Kickstarter, but they might have some like ideas of what the risk might be in their mind, or they want to know what your backup plan is when you do hit a wall. That's what that risk section is for, is when you hit a wall, what are you going to do?
I typically use that for first off, full price breakdown, which is a great idea. Putting the numbers in there makes you seem way more serious. But I also tend to use that because when I go into my Kickstarters, like, as long as I get the money, there's almost no risk, because I always do it after the book is basically done, and I just need to get the printing done and get all that stuff taken care of, and that's the stage that you need a lot of money for.
And that's what I write in my risk section is all I need is the money so I can publish it to the printer, and then it's just shipping. So I mean, sometimes if your book is shipping from China, that is considered a risk.
Yes.
But mine I've done through Ingram Spark and Amazon. Both are print on demand within the US.
Mhm.
So the shipping risk is way lower. And I think I write that in my risk section.
Yeah. My comic printer is based in the United States. He's actually based in New York State. So I don't run the risk of, I feel so bad for my table neighbor from Small Press Expo, because my table neighbor who was right next to me was like, I have been looking forward to this all year, and now my books are stuck in customs. Yeah. Yep.
That's a
And
nightmare.
oh, that's such a nightmare. That's one reason why you want to try to keep book printing domestic as much as you can. To avoid
one of many
customs.
reasons.
Yeah. I've had a lot of trouble in various ways with the printer I've used. I've also used Ingram Spark. But there are certain elements of what they do that are almost too convenient to not use. Like, they do domestic printing from multiple shops. So like, when you get your stuff printed, that's going to happen. I also get the impression they have they have access to print shops around the world. So if you are doing international stuff, they're actually printing it there and shipping it there. It's big advantage. But they also, especially if you can't afford offset printing, which let's be honest, most of us, that's the case. You have to be able to get a lot of books to afford offset printing. They are one of the cheaper commercial options out there. Now, you may have to fight with customer service for a couple months, but you'll get a good product at the end of that.
Yeah, I think one of these days we can do a stream just about finding a printer for comics.
Yes.
It's like that is an entire conversation in and of itself.
Yeah.
Yes.
There is a printer that honestly I hope to work with in the future, but I won't name them because this is kind of a tougher story. I had contacted them. They were really good about getting back to me and giving me a real idea of what was going on, giving me the quotes. The problem is, because it's such a small operation, apparently it takes them a few months to process any job, because it's basically a couple people working out of a garage print setup. But this is actually someone I want to work with in the future. So I'm not going to name it, but like I got through the whole quote process and found out it would take months for that to happen. And that ended up unfortunately killing this project. I know in the future, contact way ahead of time with this guy and it might happen, but like, you'll run into problems like that all the time.
Yeah. And that's another thing to consider for your Kickstarter is who are you going to work with for printing and what's their turnaround time?
Yeah.
If you're doing something small like buttons, I actually worked with one button printer, but I think in the future I'm going to work with Sticker Mule, because the guy that I did go to was basically one guy out of his garage.
Yeah.
And like, it's nice to be able to support independent people like that, but when it came to especially the Validation Button Kickstarter, that was a lot of buttons that he ended up having to make.
Yeah.
And he was just one guy. So yeah, if I do button rewards, even as stretch goals in the future, I'm going to go with Sticker Mule or some other like button printer. Like a company who can do large runs and do them quickly. The same thing for the stickers. Incidentally, Sticker Mule has great stickers. I know that there's also a company called Sticker App. I keep seeing their advertisements pop up on Instagram. I've never used them, but their stickers look neat. But they are a direct competitor to Sticker Mule. So if you're looking for sticker printers, Sticker Mule and Sticker App. Sticker Mule also does buttons and magnets, and they also do acrylic pins. I did a test run of acrylic pins with them recently because I was thinking about maybe doing a like week-long mini Kickstarter just for the pins. I had considered that for this year, but then I was like, it's 2020.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's so many ideas like that I've had that I'm like, I need to wait for a year when I can actually go to a convention again.
But there's been that's so. That actually brings me back to Neverending, though, because Neverending, we launched our Kickstarter in the middle of the pandemic. And we still ended up making our goal and actually exceeding our goal a little bit.
Yeah, I'm hearing that a lot.
This actually might be a really good time for Kickstarters, because people who normally are spending their money at cons aren't.
or
Yeah.
going out.
Exactly.
They're not
So they're
doing
not
that.
going out. It could also be just a wake up call for people to be like, hey, I need to support my artist friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, their income streams might have just dried up. So that's
Yeah.
another thing to consider.
Yeah. It's interesting because I feel like there hasn't been a really good advertising setup yet for artists. And if there has been one, it hasn't been advertised well enough because I have no idea about it.
The advertisers do not do a good job advertising themselves.
Yeah.
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 And honestly, Kelsey, you and I talked about like the QVC idea, similar to what Jen Vaughn, I believe, is doing, where we almost do like a couple of hosts talking about interviewing people and maybe doing limited run deals, like very much like Home Shopping Network or something like that.
Yep. And
that,
Carlos in the comments in the live stream has mentioned this before. He was the one who told me about it.
Yeah, I checked out a little bit of Jen Vaughn's thing too. Like, I kind of want to message her and just see how effective it's been. Like, see if I can get some of the numbers, because I don't see it as something to be in competition. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it also seems like something that when we do a Kickstarter, especially one for an anthology, that might be a really good thing to do then.
Is to reach out to them to be like, hey, can you signal boost our...
Well, I'm saying that, say we did something like that with the individual members of the Kickstarters. Like when we do interviews, we can do limited run Kickstarter goals, which gives us a fixed way of doing that, because that was one of the big problems. And it could be an interesting way to build a campaign for a Kickstarter.
Oh, actually, limited runs on things for Kickstarter reminded me. So on Kickstarter, there's options to do limited run stuff. There's early bird specials that you can do on Kickstarter, and there's stuff that you can put a number cap on. So like you can only offer like 100 of a given reward or 10 of a given reward, etc.
Yeah.
Out curiosity, I limited it to 5.
If something's going to be a pain in the ass to put together, put a limit on it. And if that sells out, you have the option of making more available.
Yeah.
Because
I like to have only one thing available, usually an original art piece, and to list it as one available.
Yeah.
And that is like super popular, and it ends up getting snatched up within like 24 hours. But it is good to have those like limited run options there.
I love the idea of early bird specials, because like I said earlier, it's way less stressful if you hit your base goal early. By the way, I'm not sure that everybody knows this, but the majority of Kickstarter things are all or nothing. If you don't hit the base goal, you get no money.
Yep.
So
that's how Kickstarter works. You gotta get your goal, or you don't get the money at all.
Have we all had Kickstarters that didn't hit goal till the last 24 hours?
There's been campaigns. I don't know. I haven't run any campaigns that only made the goal in the last 24 hours. Yeah, most of the campaigns that I've run, I mean, I had 2 that failed, that did not reach their goal at all. But the ones that I did make goal on, they either did the validation button thing and they made their goal within an hour, or they made the goal within like a couple of days.
But Never Ending, if I recall, hit its goal at least in the last few days, right?
I'm sorry, what was that? I was looking at comments.
Never Ending hit its goal in the last few days, didn't it?
It did. It made it within a week. Yeah. Which is apparently fairly normal for like Kickstarters that are asking for more than a couple thousand. If they're asking for like 17,000, it's normal to reach the goal within a week of the deadline.
Yeah, but that's just one thing that it's really useful for people not running Kickstarters to know about. If a Kickstarter is, if someone's running a Kickstarter for a month, be really nice to them. Especially if they haven't made goal, they are stressed out like crazy.
Yes. And also just not just that they're stressed out, but also just accept that they're going to be plugging their campaign
Yes.
constantly.
Yes.
So just give them some understanding and give them some leeway.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't know that I've ever worked harder for $2,000 in my life. And like that sounds like a lot of money, but that's like 2.5 years of work that I haven't been paid for, and I'm asking for $2,000. That's I feel I'm really dancing for my dinner.
Yeah.
Oh, I had a question back when we were talking about doing outreach.
Yes.
Do you guys do pre-made like kits and stuff or text that makes it easier for people to plug your work?
I keep telling myself to do that, and then I don't.
Yeah, it's the last thing I think about, which is probably a mistake. I tend to, when I do plugs, if I give them anything, I give them something that they can relink that I've already done. Like I do a video for my Kickstarters because I think it's
it's my least favorite part, but I do it.
Yeah, it's a complete pain because the software I have is from the Adobe suite, Adobe Premiere.
Yeah.
I did a lot of film editing in college. Like that was one of my main film focuses besides screenwriting. And so I worked with the professional software a lot there. And I want to go ahead and say that Adobe Premiere is a piece of garbage. I hate the software so
lot
bad.
of Adobe
I'm
software.
sorry I said that while you were drinking, Angela.
I will say this, a lot of Adobe software is just garbage. And I'm saying that as somebody who has been working with the NeverEnding team, trying to make Illustrator work. It's not worth it. Just work with Clip Studio Paint. It'll save you so many headaches.
It's true. Actually, someone also linked me to a Humble bundle for a bunch of Corel Painter stuff. So if you've ever been interested in that, I don't have the link for it handy, but it was like a $30 Humble bundle that came with Corel Painter, some other software, and a bunch of brushes.
Yeah.
It's so I've been doing those videos, and it's a really useful thing to have because a lot of people don't want to read your Kickstarter. They don't. I'll be honest. I don't like reading Kickstarters.
I'm the opposite. I don't want to watch the video.
So funny story. Of the campaigns that I have run, the only one that had a video was NeverEnding, and that was because I didn't make it. The campaigns that I have run just for me, no videos.
The thing is, I think the trick is to have both, because there are some people who prefer the text, there's some people who prefer the videos. I like to have both, especially when you do a video, people see you and they get like this, that personifies it to a degree, and that I think can really help.
So my videos I don't actually appear in most of the time, but I use iMovie with my Mac. They have a trailer template thing, and they just say put in this kind of shot here and this kind of shot here, and it's supposed to be for like vacation photos. Do a wide shot, do an action shot, do a group photo, but I'll use that and manipulate it into a preview for whatever. So I also have it on my Patreon.
Yeah.
Do you do voiceover for it?
No. So when I was a technical writer, I had to do training videos for the software, and I had to record my voice and edit it for just hours and hours. I'd do 15-minute video, and it would take me like 3 hours to do the audio.
Right.
I have never hated my own voice more. I had to do all that editing.
The thing that's funny is my next question was going to be, did you make Abe do it? Like, did you make Abe do the...
I made him record me. For the second Awesome Possum, I actually did myself in the video, like some actual video. It's probably fine.
I'm just picturing him. I'm just picturing you saying, "Wow, you sound like garbage."
I should just do mock Abe voice whenever I have to do a video.
Yeah.
It's like Awesome Possum is this series that my dumb wife does.
Animal.
See, what I like to do whenever I'm coming up with a Kickstarter page, when I'm writing up stuff, is I like to write it like I'm talking out loud, so that my voice comes through in the writing, and that's why I write the Kickstarter campaigns rather than doing video. Also, I don't have any kind of good video editor. Like fun fact, I tried recording a vlog to like give a studio tour of my space, and the free video editor that came with my laptop is a hunk of garbage. And like, I technically know how to edit videos, but I haven't found any good video editing software. So that's a big chunk of why I don't make Kickstarter videos, is because I just don't have the tools to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would rather work with the tools that I have, and the tools that I have are a word processor and my own voice.
Yeah. What's always funny to me when I'm doing my Kickstarter videos is like when I'm doing a live stream, I'm not scripted, so I sound kind of natural. But when I do a script for my Kickstarter videos, and it always has a little bit of a weird quality, but I kind of like it. Like, it feels like I'm doing a Hitchcock Presents thing. Like, just
with your mysteries.
Exactly. And I like to like try to hide little. I've started trying to hide little things in there sometimes. Like when I announced that the Kickstarter had successfully wrapped up, it was around Halloween, so I did a video of me sitting at my kitchen table with a drink and a pumpkin that had been carved with the like cursive L on it. And I just tried to make it a little bit weird and awkward in like a Hitchcock way. And that was a lot of fun.
Very you.
Yeah. But I mean, also when I made Goal, I did just an off-the-cuff video, just like, guys, this is a big deal for me. And that video felt way more honest. So it's interesting. Like, it's important to find that balance. If you want to be a little bit of a showman with it, even if you're not a good actor or anything like that, go for it. Like, that honestly can get people interested. But yeah, I find it interesting, Kelsey, that you've done a bunch of really successful Kickstarter and don't do videos for it.
Yep. Nope. And again, that's because I don't have the tool set to do good video editing.
But like in theory, you could just do something without editing and just do a quick live stream thing, because you do live streams all the time.
I like live streams. I like the candidness of them, and I like that I don't have to edit them. That's the big one. I don't have to edit live streams, and I like that.
But I'm saying, if you're doing a video for Kickstarter, you could theoretically just do that. You could do a short live stream, talk it out, and then that's the video you post on your Kickstarter.
There is the option to do that.
Yeah.
And that's something that I have thought about, because StreamYard, the platform that we're streaming with right now, does have the capability for you to go into a studio and record a stream, but not have it live, so that you can record like a tutorial or record let's say a Kickstarter promotional video, and then you can post it up later. So that is an option. It's something I might consider. I don't know. Something I'm going to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm mostly thinking about it because I was like, well, we could use it for Patreon. But I'm honestly considering switching from Patreon to Ko-fi, because, okay, I know that Patreon has been a game changer for a lot of people, but they keep consistently dropping pledges. Like, there are some, like, especially some like higher tier patrons who support me, that every month Patreon drops their pledges. Don't know why.
Yeah, I honestly, I'm curious to know more about that, because I don't think that's been happening for mine.
Yeah, well, something to check.
I'll have to make sure of that. Like, does it let you know this patron has been dropped, or does it just?
You have to find out yourself. You have to like look at your page, and that's how I know when pledges get dropped. Is I look at my page and I know like how many patrons I have and how much I get per month, and it's usually right around the beginning of a given month where I see that patrons got dropped. And then I'll check the exit surveys, and there were no exit surveys filled out. So that tells me Patreon just dropped their pledges.
So when that happens, are they no longer listed as one of your patrons, or are they just not? They're the patron, but the money's not going through. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna have to check that now because the amount I get is significantly less than the amount that people are pledging, but that's because I also back people, and it kind of takes it out from there.
Yeah,
but I need to double check now because I'm officially paranoid.
Well, that's just something I wanted to bring up.
Yes, I'll have to look at that.
Since we're talking about drop pledges and things, so have you had any backers drop out of a campaign? Like, did their charge not come through, or did they decide at the last minute that they didn't want to back you? How did you handle that?
I actually brought them up before. I've only had two. One I think was just didn't know how to use Kickstarter and it was a mistake. The other person I'm pretty sure was a scammer. Like they backed me just to promote their stuff, and then when the actual pledge time came, they didn't pay for it. And I did report them to Kickstarter because that could screw someone over down the road. I was lucky that I was
super high.
Yeah, I was lucky that I was in a position where losing that $10 did not drop me below the minimum by a long shot. But that could have been really bad.
Yeah, do you know if the actually collected money isn't over your goal? I think they still give you the money as long as the pledge amount is over. I don't think they would
as long as if you've made your initial goal and then you raise a certain amount over top of that, and then as stuff is getting processed, suddenly pledges just drop, you still get the money that went through.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You still get the money that went through. It's just the pledges that got dropped for whatever reason that don't process.
Stop scaring me, man.
Well, and this is something that I like to do at the end of my Kickstarters. The next day, I'll be like, hey, everybody, we made it. Okay, I need you to do these things really quick. I need you to check and make sure that your payment information is accurate, because I would hate to see Kickstarter freak out over the card that you chose to use and say this isn't valid and then not process your pledge, because I want you to get your rewards. And then there's a couple of other things that are just littler things, but the big one is please make sure that your payment information is up to date. And when relevant, make sure that your shipping address is up to date. There's been a couple of yes, because there's been times where somebody will change their address in the middle of a campaign and they'll have to follow up. And there is one thing that Kickstarter can do is whenever you're setting up those backer surveys are surveys that you send out to backers once you've made your goal. And the surveys are there to help you figure out more details so that you can send those rewards to the backers.
Right.
There is an option in the backer survey of, do you need this person's shipping address? And there's a little box that's like, allow the person to change their address. And after one or two campaigns, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to have this box checked, because there will be people who will move to a new address in the middle of your campaign. It's an inevitability, and it's something that you got to watch out for.
Yeah, there was that actually was a problem this year in particular, because I sent out the surveys in March, and I'm not sure if you noticed, but some stuff happened after that.
Yeah. We talked about it. We mentioned the P word.
Yeah. But a lot of people have been relocated. I've been relocated with all this. These are not my diplomas behind me. They're my mom's.
I moved to a new home in June.
Exactly.
So,
in fact, I knew that. So if I needed to send you something, I would have probably messaged you direct. But what was funny is my mom actually was helping me with some of the organization for getting the mailing packages out. And so she was looking over the addresses, and she actually looked at one that was from, I want to say, one of her college roommates. And she goes, "Oh, wait, she's not here right now." I'm like, "Oh, cool. Okay, cool." Like I'd actually posted shortly before I started putting together these packages, like, if your address is different because of everything going on, let me know. This is your chance to update it. And only like one or two people actually updated it, and the rest I had to get lucky in email and double check with a couple of them. By the way, you mentioned the P word. One of my favorite solutions for talking about that without getting demonetized on YouTube is something the Game Grumps did, where they refer to it as the Backstreet Boys reunion tour.
Oh, they came up with a code word to refer to it.
Yeah. And it's great because anytime someone says something roundabout, I immediately think, yeah, the Backstreet Boys reunion tour.
Yeah. I should do that. I should come up with a nickname for it. I hadn't thought about that, but that's clever. I like it. Most people just nickname it Rona, but I mean, that's so ubiquitous. I like Backstreet Boys reunion tour.
That's pretty funny.
It's longer, but it's funnier.
Yes. So, do you guys do thank yous? Like, in my first Awesome Possum, I had a thank you page in the back.
Oh yeah, I do that with all the books that I do. Is I have a page just for thank yous.
I don't do it in the book, although I guess that's not a bad idea. I do it on my website. I actually have a page specifically for patrons and people who back my Kickstarter. And one of the things that's fun about that, if not only do I put up whatever name they want me to put up, I will put up a URL if they want me their name to hyperlink to something. And obviously, like, there are limits on it. I don't want them like. Actually, if someone sent me a Rickroll, I would probably do it. But
you would.
But yeah, if something was like, I don't know, somehow inappropriate, horribly racist, or some crazy crap like that, I would, say, "Can you give me a different link?" But as long as it's within reason, it's something I tend to go for. But yeah, doing it actually in the book is a great idea.
And you don't find it too much additional work? Because it added such a stress to mine.
What was the stress point for you for that?
Trying to get people to get me their names, for one. And it meant that I had to make adjustments to the book after the Kickstarter. And usually I have the book ready and raring to go.
Right. That is admittedly a pretty big problem.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something I've come across too. I think in the future, whenever I'm like, hey, I'd like to give you a shout out in the thank you section, I think I'm going to start enforcing like a deadline, like a stop date line for when they can send me the name that they want to be credited as.
Yeah.
Just so it can get different.
Do you do that as part of the backer survey or separate?
Oh, I have it as part of the backer survey.
Okay, that's what I did. But then I wanted to wait to put out the backer survey for some reason. I had to, it was logistically awkward.
Yeah. And for a lot of people who don't use Kickstarter much, they may not see the backer survey. Like, that comes up a lot.
Yeah, I still have people in all of my Kickstarters that haven't filled it out.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do about it.
To circumvent that a little bit, Kickstarter does do a thing where when it gives you the information for who backed your campaign, there is a line for their email address.
Yeah.
Not the like in Kickstarter platform email address, like their actual email address.
Yeah.
So like if you're not hearing from somebody who backed your campaign, you can just reach out to them with a custom message just to be like, hey, if you haven't seen the backer survey, these are the questions that I have for you. Please let me know what the answers are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then it's just annoying because
it's a little annoying. But
then it's just annoying because it's not inside the handy dandy template you put together. But
yeah.
Actually, that reminds me. Kickstarter has the absolute worst system for putting together spreadsheets for you afterwards, don't they? I hate that system.
I do not put together spreadsheets after a Kickstarter campaign. Like, I just I just go like from person to person. But it
Me
is
too.
if you have a lot of backers, like
Mhm.
if you have more than 20, it is kind of a pain to assemble all that information together.
Their USPS version isn't bad for when you're setting up mailing labels. That's nice because you can take that form and in various different ways do a mail merge thing and get all the labels set up ready to go. But
Mhm.
the ones that actually
I can really do that. I
it's so
handwrite
nice.
them all.
Don't do it. I mean, in
I
particular,
know.
like Angela, you use InDesign. Like you should know.
I don't know
I-
how to use mail merge. I also don't
Look-
know why I'm black right now. Come on, like
You're backlit.
Yeah.
You are very, very backlit.
I know my
But-
apartment is not set up for.
Hmm.
I have so many lights going on trying to get it working.
But yeah, with
Mhm.
honestly, for InDesign, the best thing I can say is Google it because I did, and it took me 10 minutes to do the entire thing.
I think Abe knows how.
He probably does.
I just like the process of hand lettering. Not I like it feels like a little thank you to handwrite
Yeah.
each name and address.
Like that kind of
Granted,
stuff is always cool.
it introduces errors because I've totally transposed in the zip code, which is bad.
Like if anything you don't want to get wrong on there, it's zip code. The zip
Well,
code does a lot.
They usually catch it at the post office,
Mhm.
which our post office here in Bellingham, the one I've been going to, they've been awesome. They're
Mm.
just so nice.
Support
They're
the
the one-
USPS.
Yeah.
What's that?
Support the USPS.
Yes.
Like that's another thing I want to throw out there. If you are at all invested in Kickstarters continuing to be a thing, support the USPS.
Mhm.
It is not meant to be a profitable business. It is a service.
Yes.
Yes. It's a
That-
service that benefits everyone.
I
I
want
want to do a Kickstarter just so I can do a bunch of USPS.
Right?
Yeah.
I like every single package I shipped out for this Kickstarter. The most expensive was the original art, which cost $8 to ship because I needed a big flat flat rate thing. The rest were $3 to $4, depending on if it's one book or two books.
Yeah.
And that was fast. It went to like I shipped it on a Saturday right around noon, so it's like right at the cutoff.
Yeah.
And by Monday, people had started getting my books. And I want to say Thursday, one of my patrons who lives in Hawaii got their copy of the book.
Heck yeah.
Like, and here's the other thing. I used to work before I did comics full time for UPS, which is a fine company. It does a lot of good stuff, but I absolutely do not want UPS to be running the mail.
Yeah.
It's like if I had to do the exact same thing I did with my Kickstarter and I had to ship everything through UPS, I'd be charging probably $5 to $10 per book.
Yeah. More. Yeah. Like there was somebody who worked at UPS who did the math, and they were like, okay, I found a rural address to send a regular letter to, like a regular, like trying to not swear.
First class posted. Yeah.
Basically first class postage. Like you want to send a letter to your grandma.
Yeah.
If you sent that through UPS to this rural address, it would cost you $15.47 or something like that. If you shipped it through USPS, 55 cents.
You want to know the other funny thing? That'll get flown to the point it needs to get to. With UPS, it go like by default, the cheap stuff all goes by truck.
Yeah.
Which, you know, full support of our truckers. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be moved that way right now. But if you want so Jon Stewart actually put it really well a long time ago on the Daily Show. This was I'm sorry to be getting a little bit political with this because it was a political reference he was making.
You know what, though? It is sad that the post office has become a political issue, but go on.
It wasn't even political about that. It was about the Affordable Care Act. But it showed a clip of a Republican congressman who was against the ACA saying that if you like the service you get from the post office or the DMV, you'll love how the government handles healthcare. And Jon Stewart's response was, "Don't knock the USPS. For 37 cents, they'll put shit you wrote on a plane."
Yeah.
And I think of that every single time because it's exactly what the USPS does, and it's a great service.
Yeah.
And without it, like Kickstarters that do physical stuff would be dead in the water. It'd be so hard to do for a small business.
Oh my God, right? Yeah. The only reason that I can like offer what I can at the price that I can is because of USPS.
I'm noticing the time, and there's one thing I did want to bring up because I've talked to Kelsey about this before. What time of year do you recommend doing Kickstarters? Because I remember I was going to do mine during the holiday season last year, and you recommended against that.
Oh, yeah. Angela, do you have thoughts on that?
I try not to do it in December, just because I don't want to pay taxes on it. So I try to give myself enough time that I can get the money from Kickstarter and spend the money from Kickstarter, and then have to do the end of the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Come to think of it, I don't even know how the taxes would work on that because, in all likelihood, you'd be getting the money in 1 year and then actually doing all the expenses and things like that the next year. So how would you write that off? Do you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, that's how you would do it. You would so if you did it in December of 2020, you would have your 2020 taxes would include your $10,000 or $1,000, and then your 2021 you would include all the expenses. So you would end up paying a bunch in taxes and not really getting the tax write-off unless every year you do that, and then it kind of the expenses from one goes to the income from the next.
Yeah. The latest I ever run a Kickstarter is November, and that's for my Inktober sketchbooks. Like right after Inktober wraps up in previous years, I think I'll do it again this year. I had said in an email newsletter, no, I'm not going to do any Kickstarters for the rest of 2020 because Neverending still needs to get fulfilled. At the same time, though, I don't want to break the streak that I have going with the Inktober sketchbooks.
Yeah.
So... yeah,
I will say, like, first off, if you're able to do it, fantastic. If you do end up having to break the streak, forgive yourself. It's 2020. I want that to be out there.
Okay. Yeah.
Because
I'm trying to be way more forgiving to myself this year. I feel like this year is the year for people to have to learn how to forgive themselves for stuff.
I had a weird thing with back when the protests really started taking off.
Yeah.
I actually came across the music version of this where all studios were basically halting all music releases and promotion for a day. It was Blackout Tuesday, I think it was called.
Yeah.
And I heard about that in the music industry. I'm like, I don't know if comics are doing this, but my cost paint strips always post on Tuesday. Maybe for Blackout Tuesday, I should just delay it a day or something like that. And I decided to do that. I had so much agita about that just because I have not missed a deadline with cost paint for, at that point, like 2.5 years.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, I'm just like, it's not a delay because I was behind. It's a delay for a good reason. And it's 2020. Like, no one cares if I'm delayed.
Everyone's delayed. It's 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So stupid anxiety, but anxiety nonetheless. And I had to learn to get over that part of it.
Yeah.
So what you mentioned that November's the latest you do it. And Angela, you said you avoid doing December. Is there a specific time we think is the best for doing Kickstarters?
I hear not summer.
Really?
Yeah, because everyone's out doing things. But I don't know.
I feel like it really depends. Personally, for me, I try not to run any campaigns between December and March, and I feel like that's largely because A, that's the holiday season, so everybody's spending their money elsewhere, and B, because other people are spending their attention elsewhere, they're not spending it on comics or on Kickstarter for that matter. But more people are willing to spend in the spring and fall, from what I've noticed. Oh, roommate actually brought up a good point. Spring may be the best time to do a Kickstarter because tax refunds.
Ah, yes.
That's interesting.
Yep.
That's an interesting idea.
Because
So
people are getting
honestly,
their tax refund money and they want to spend it.
so honestly, April specifically might be the best time to do it.
Right around there, March or April. May at the latest. I think I did one campaign in August and it went okay, but I would rather do it in the spring or the fall. For me personally, yeah.
Because that first Kickstarter that I finished quickly was September, October, and the second one was February.
Yeah. Oh, I want to highlight this comment from Carlos real quick. Act of God and act of justice is always a valid excuse.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Carlos. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I thought about delaying it even longer than a day, but I was like, I'm having this much agita over a day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also about spring conventions, also can take advantage to advertise Kickstarters via spring conventions.
This is true, although there's also the argument that you want to have the book printed for the spring conventions, and the Kickstarter is what allows you to print it a lot of the time.
That's why I like to do a lot of campaigns in the fall, because that gives me material to run through convention season the following year.
This is true. There's not a lot of cons in the winter.
Yeah, there's maybe one or two, and most of them, for some weird reason, are in the Midwest when there's snow. Like, I'm thinking of YumaCon and OhioCon in particular.
Yeah, although OhioCon, like,
Mhm.
once they are back up and running, 100% recommend. They are a very well-run con, and they've got a great artist alley.
Mhm.
I have not officially tabled there, I will admit. I did their last minute table, but
yeah, one day, 1 year, 1 year.
definitely. Like, I really want them to bounce back and do well. I want all the cons to come back. I miss you guys.
I know, right?
Yeah, I was really, really hoping to do short run again.
I don't know. For me, I was happy to take a break from conventions this year. I had considered doing it before, and then Backstreet Boys reunion tour happened. And I was like, you know what? This is a good excuse to not do conventions. It's giving me more time to, like, really look at the business that I'm running and know where I want to put my energy towards. And I have some really good ideas for 2021.
It's been scary for me because my main comic is about conventions. I need material.
Yeah.
And it's been weird because the pandemic kind of hasn't happened in the comic. Or at the very least, cons never closed. The reason being, like, first off, I'm trying to give some people some escapism. There's a lot of nostalgia to pay off on this.
Yeah.
And also, like, I don't know how you do a comic that's about conventions when there aren't conventions happening. And I still have ideas I want to get out there. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to when cons are able to safely reopen.
Yeah. And we, Ben and CB and I actually did a chat about the future of Comic Cons, which you can watch on this here YouTube channel. That one's also a live stream recording if you wanted to watch that.
Always be selling.
It's plugs. Zoom chats via comic panels. I mean, I am not opposed to doing comic convention panels as Zoom meetings, because then you can record that as a live stream. And
I mean, that's sort of what we're doing right now.
When I think doing
what?
that.
What do you mean? It's totally what we're doing right now.
Yeah, I think First Second has been putting some comic panels out. They did one in, like, June, a series of panels, and they were going to do another one, I remember.
Cartoon Crossroads Columbus is doing that this weekend.
Oh, okay.
They're doing, like, live stream comic convention panels and then posting them later.
MagFest has been doing the same thing. The thing where it gets really tricky is I feel like nobody has really come up with a good way to recreate the Artist Alley experience. There are a lot of things linking to artist pages and stuff like that, but none of that feels like it works right to me. Like, that stuff has always been around. What you really need is sort of that interpersonal experience that you get from going and walking around a convention center.
I feel like this was touched on a little bit earlier in the stream. Selling at a comic convention is different from selling online.
Yes.
And that shows in how you promote your Kickstarter campaigns, because the way that you promote a Kickstarter campaign is very different from how you sell at a comic convention.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's tough because honestly, I find selling at a Comic-Con a lot easier because there's that direct interaction.
Mm-hmm.
When it's online, you are basically yelling into a void a lot of the time. You really are, because there's so much information that, like, I technically follow a lot of people who probably do Kickstarters on Twitter, but there's so much stuff coming up on Twitter that I'm not going to see it a lot of the time. It is so hard to figure out a good way to do it.
That's why direct messaging to people is a good idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
Direct messaging. I think live streams are also a great way to do it, especially with people who have channels that get a lot more people on Kelsey.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. But if you like, that kind of thing gives a lot of the direct interaction that people look for with this kind of thing, while still being online, and it can be very helpful when you're trying to run a Kickstarter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. One other thing I was curious about, Kelsey, you mentioned you've done multiple Kickstarters in a year, like you do a bunch of short Kickstarters.
Yes.
Do you get people burning out on that?
Not really. They know that the Kickstarters are short. I think after Thoughtful Dinosaur wrapped up, that was like my third or fourth campaign. I discovered the magic of running campaigns for less than 4 weeks. And the other Kickstarters that I have done after that have been anywhere between a week and 3 weeks. But because of the short nature of those campaigns and the fact that my ask is a lower barrier of entry, as it were, then being able to run like a short Kickstarter once a quarter is okay. Whenever you're running a Kickstarter for a really big ask, like with Never Ending asking for 17,000, it makes more sense to do only one in a year if you're asking for that much at once.
Yeah.
But I think if you're doing a shorter campaign window, like less than 4 weeks, it's okay to have more than one in a given year as long as you space them out. Like, whenever I do mine, I maybe do one in the spring and one in the fall. With maybe one in the summer if there's a hair up my butt and I really want to get something to print. But even then, that's my window. I only do at most 3 a year, and I do short window ones. But
I'm curious because I remember talking to my parents about this, and I mentioned that I was planning on doing another Kickstarter. And keep in mind, my first Kickstarter was in 2017, and the next one was in 2020. So it was about 2.5 years difference because one was fall, one was spring. But my parents were like, you can't necessarily expect the same people to be backing you every time if you're doing all this stuff. I think in their heads, I was just getting help from friends and family. It was kind of funny because when my mom was helping me with putting together the mailing envelopes, she looked at some of the names and she would ask me, "So who is this?" And at a certain point, I was like, "I don't know." You do realize I don't know all these people, right? These aren't all just my friends.
Yeah. I am willing to wager that of the people who back my Kickstarters, I've gotten to know them now that they have consistently backed my Kickstarters, and a lot of them have become patrons on Patreon. But there's a lot of them that I have not met face to face.
Yeah.
And there's also a lot of them that's the only way that I know them is because they crowdfund my stuff, which I'm grateful for. And I feel like maybe we can do like a part 2 live stream talking about how to engage with your backers to get them on board as fans so that they back your next Kickstarter campaign or beyond.
I would love to know how that works because I'm still figuring it out.
I wanted to try to talk about that in this stream, and we ended up talking about a lot of other stuff.
I'm honestly amazed at how well you've been able to work things with your mailing list because One of the things that was shocking to me is that I think I only got 1 or 2 backers from my mailing list, which I love you guys. I want to be clear. I'm not blaming you.
Yeah.
But it makes me think that maybe I'm not utilizing that correctly, because I know you get a lot of traction from that.
Oh yeah. Okay. My email newsletters are such that I was actually asked at one point.
Mhm.
Sorry, my inner Midwestern grandma showed up.
It's okay, Leela.
But I was asked at one point to talk at a panel about how to run an email newsletter because of like how well I did it. And I can probably do an entire live stream Q&A just about that because there is an art to it. I feel like this is something I should just write down. It's just live stream about
Yep. Just do this constantly. Exact same panel every week.
Pretty much. Speaking of which, while I'm thinking about it, I'll go ahead and announce I'm going to be returning the live stream schedules back to a bi-weekly schedule. I used to do them weekly during the summer. Now I want to bring it back on like a bi-weekly basis. Also, I forgot to announce this sooner. I'm going to announce the winner of the giveaway on Instagram that I was running. Because I was running a giveaway on Instagram, and I said in the giveaway I would announce the winner in today's live stream. So I'll go ahead and get my secret giveaway sheet up. Oh, actually I can't. Crud.
Is the giveaway that riding mower that's outside?
Oh, sorry.
Oh goodness. Okay.
I can mute myself.
I'm going to do a thing really quick, so you two just to fill the void while
I guess I'll unmute.
Yeah,
I need you two to fill the void while I do some technical tinkering.
Yeah, that reminds me, Angela, you had actually asked me previously about my Who Drawn It panel and the whole system I had for mystery writing. One of the things I did for my last Kickstarter is I actually did a video of the panel that I normally do. Talking about mystery comics. So that's probably the best thing I could send you if you're up for watching about an hour long video. Cool. I'll get that to you.
Did you do that as a stretch goal or a...
No, I just did it as I planned it as a last minute push, and then I made like that the day I was going to do it. I made goal.
Oh, nice.
And I did it anyway, but it was like a celebration instead of like, here, quick, last minute to give me money.
No, that's perfect.
It was great. Man, it's funny because I actually, one of my friends decided to donate $100 to one of the tiers, and that was what got me over the edge. I'm like, dude, thank you. Holy crap. Yeah. I was so happy.
Yes.
Sorry, one other thing that I want to throw out there that's good to know if you're running Kickstarters. There's a 65% statistic that gets floated a lot. That statistic is if you can make 65% of your goal before the end of the Kickstarter, there's a 99% chance you're going to finish. You're going to make it to your goal.
Yep.
So that is the magic number. Keep an eye out for that. You can breathe a little bit more once you hit 65%. Like that is a really good moment.
Yep. Okay. I now have the winner of the giveaway on Instagram. The winner of the giveaway is going to get a copy of The Legend of Jamie Roberts issue 1 and issue 2, a copy of Dragons, a sketchbook, and The Legend of Norsa, a formerly Kickstarter exclusive mini comic from one of the Jamie Roberts campaigns that I ran. I ran 2 of them. But the winner of the giveaway, the winner of these books is Resident Ringo on Instagram. So Resident Ringo, you just won yourself The Legend of Jamie Roberts issues 1 and 2, Dragons, and The Legend of Norsa. I will be reaching out to you on Instagram for a mailing address to ship them to you ASAP. Don't worry about paying for shipping. I got you covered, boo.
Kelsey, I slipped you 20 before this so that I'd win, and I'm really disappointed.
Oh, you'll get yours. You'll get your comic soon.
I tried to pass it. Hold on. I tried to pass it through Angela, and
Like in the ear, out the other.
Yeah.
Oh my god! I did. Oh my gosh! I did. We're gonna high five through Angela. Ready?
wait,
Ready?
hold on.
Okay. Ready? And 1, 2. Technical wizardry.
By the way, this is not related to anything, but it's nearby, and I thought you might find it cool. So
Yeah.
I will be going back to Columbus in a couple weeks.
Ooh! Congrats.
Yeah, just for a little bit. I actually will be coming back down for the holidays, but I have a couple friends who are going to be getting married, and I will be officiating the marriage. Here is my certificate to be an official officiant.
Oh my gosh! I
I am,
didn't
in
even
fact-
know you had one of those.
I just got it. I am, in fact, a minister now with American Marriage Ministries. It is the easiest credential I've ever gotten.
Well,
No.
congrats.
Thank you. But by the way, I'm not joking about this. It is funny, but I'm not joking. I've had a harder time ordering pizza than getting registered to be a minister. Dead ass. I thought that I was signing up for the website to start the process. No, as soon as I finished filling out the basic stuff you need to sign up for the website, it said, "Congratulations, you're ordained." So this is a credential. If you ever thought, hey, it'd be fun to perform a marriage for one of my friends, this is a really easy credential to get. Also, what's very funny to me is look how anti-alias this shit is.
Yeah.
Can you see that? I like every artist should be looking at that and cringing. It's great.
Oh my gosh. This has been fun, y'all.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. I will say, everybody in chat, I've been looking at your comments. I'm sorry that I haven't highlighted as many as I usually do, but know that I love every single comment that you have been posting. Oh, Jessica just made a comment. When my wife and I got married, our good friend was the minister. She was ordained on the internet. She also used to be a Wiccan priestess long ago.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was also American Marriage Ministries. Like, this is the main thing they do.
Yeah.
And the process has been way easier than I would have expected. Like,
Mhm.
I had to pay to have the documentation shipped to me, but everything they sent me is pretty straightforward and just what you need to get registered in this particular state. But yeah, that stuff is fantastic.
But yes, this has been a fun stream.
Mhm.
If you would be so interested, I'm more than happy to have you back on the week after next if we wanted to do a follow-up about how to engage with Kickstarter backers. 'Cause we didn't get to that this week. Yeah, but
We got off topic and rambled? Huh.
it's almost like we didn't have an outline for this.
It's
Yeah.
true. But I mean, we
Funny
covered a lot,
story.
honestly.
We did
there's-
cover a lot, yes.
Yeah.
But we can definitely cover more the week after next.
I'd be down for that.
Yeah. Same time, same website. Just 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern dated time. I used to call it Eastern Standard Time. Nowadays, people are saying EDT.
Here's
Oh.
what's weird. It's EST on the East Coast, but as soon as you hit Ohio, it becomes EDT. I have no idea why.
Gosh
I
darn
think
it,
it's Eastern
Ohio.
Daylight Time. Yeah. But there's something like it's the exact same as Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah.
I have no idea why it does that, but I had to get used to the same thing when I moved.
Eastern.
Yeah.
I just say Eastern, so I'll
Yeah.
just, yeah. So 1 to 3 p.m. ish. We ran a little over. That's fine. We rambled. But 1 p.m. Eastern,
Mhm.
same channel. The week after next, I will be announcing it on my email newsletter. To sign up for that, you can go to this link at the bottom of the screen and click on the email newsletter sign up. I feel like you're clicking because you're going to sign up for it just now. I heard the clicking. All
Angela,
right.
where can they find you on the internet?
Okay.
Where can they
Um,
find you on the internet?
Let's see, on Instagram, Twitter, what's the other one? Patreon. I'm Angela B Comics. So it's for Angela Boyle Comics. Because there's a ton of Angela Boyles out there. They're all Irish. AngelaBoyle.FlyingDodoStudio.com on the screen has links to everything. So all my Instagram, Twitter, the comic I have going right now, Threadbare Memories. And I also have an email newsletter you can sign up for on that page.
Nice.
Yeah.
Come to think of it, I should sign up for your email newsletter. I didn't realize you had one. I'm going to have to do that.
Ben, where can people find you on the internet?
Well, I'm BWH Comics on pretty much every social media platform. If there's a BWH Comics on that platform, it's me. I hope I shouldn't have said that. What's going to happen when somebody just like gives up a TikTok of BWH Comics and it's not me? Yeah, I have a Ko-Fi actually, but
Okay.
yeah, I am BWH Comics on there. But I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, Facebook. That's BWHcomics.com is my website. I have, if you want to find all these, the other good way to find it is probably through my Linktree, which is you saw the link for Kelsey's earlier. It's also BWH Comics for me. So, but Patreon is BWH Comics. Yeah, I'm BWH Comics and everything. The only other major link to check out is my webcomic Cospain. That is cospaincomic.com.
Give it a read. It's funny.
Thank you. But yeah, especially if you're missing conventions right now, it's a good time to check out my silly little weeb comic.
All right. Thank you both so much for joining me on this live stream today.
Yeah.
And thank you, everybody in the chat, for your comments and for your questions. It was great seeing you here. All right. I will see you the week after next.
Yay!
Here is the point where you both, if you have catchphrases, say your catchphrase.
Rock on, guys, and never stop drawing.
Angela, do you have one?
I don't have one.
Oh my gosh!
I guess I'll need to come up with one in 2 weeks.
All right, I'll go ahead.
I knew as soon as I was saying mine that Angela would be like,
I see yours all the time.
Yep. Well, thank you so much for watching. I will say mine now, and I mean it when I say it, because my gosh, guys, you are awesome.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye for now.